Hey, this is the Fight Nerd, and we're at the end of Bellator 39. Joining me now is Bjorn Rebney. Bjorn, how are you today?
I'm pretty good.
It's really late. We're both really tired.
Yeah, it's been a long day. I got up at about 7, and now it's 1.
So about 1:30 almost?
1:35.
1:35.
That's a long night. Yeah, I forget. When you do East Coast shows, once you get done with all of this, it gets really late into the evening.
At least it was a great night of fights, so I got to say that.
Yeah, it was very solid. I mean, Patricky Pitbull is something special. I think we've got we found one of those magical diamonds that you find every once in a while in the mixed martial arts space, and he is something. A couple of amazing victories. I mean, the Imada knockout, the Razor Rob right hand. I mean, that kid is on a spectacular roll. Spectacular roll.
And tonight also, Eddie Alvarez, Pat Curran went to war, went 5 rounds. Did you expect that one to go 5 rounds?
I don't know if I expected it to go 5 rounds, not so much because I didn't think Pat could go 5 rounds, but just because of the nature of how both of them fight. You know, big power. Pat's got a very big right hand, and Eddie, of course, has got power in both hands. So, you know, it was, I think a lot of people discounted how good Pat Curran really is. He came into this with a record of 3-2 coming into the tournament in his 5 fights before he started with us in season 2. And then he knocks off Ricci, and then he knocks off Huerta, and then he knocks off Imada. And so I knew he was a very talented fighter. And Jeff Curran, I don't think, gets nearly enough credit for being the kind of coach that he is. Because you had Mark here today, and you had Jeff here today, and a couple of top tier guys in the mixed martial arts space in terms of strategically getting guys ready for fights. He looked great tonight. He looked great. He had some, I think Eddie is probably the best pure puncher, pure boxer in mixed martial arts. So to stand in the pocket with a guy like that and to strategically be willing to do it and not get on your bike to get away from those punches, I mean, those body shots were wicked, vicious that Eddie was throwing. So, I think Pat Curran's got an amazing career ahead of him in this game. I mean, to be able to stand in for 5 rounds against Eddie Alvarez, something that very few people can say they've been able to do. His finishing percentage is like 87%. So I think Pat showed beautifully tonight, and I think Eddie, once again, had a dominant performance.
Also tonight we had Lyman Good versus Rick Hawn. Rick Hawn moving ahead of the tournament. But something else I want to talk about is, we had Lyman Good up here. We talked to him before also, and he was saying he didn't really necessarily agree with one of the judges who called it 30-27. What did you think about that, Judge, and what did you think about how the fight was scored in the end?
I think the ultimate decision, I think Rick getting the victory was right. I think looking at that fight and scoring at 30-27 was a pretty substantial disconnect, because I don't think that Rick won all 3 rounds, but I do think he won 2 of the 3. And I think ultimately, if you look at the fight, the 3rd round was very, very, very tight. And then ultimately that throw at the end of Rick's, I think, is probably kind of the icing on that cake of finishing that round for him. So very, very tight fight. But Rick came out and won it. He's talented, and he's sure fighting out of a good camp with good coaches. So who knows? Let's see what happens with Brent Weidman and Jay Haran and see who gets through that. And that'll be quite a final. So.
So now also coming up, you guys are going to be returning to the East Coast May 14th in Atlantic City. The Jersey debut. It's about time, Bjorn. Yeah, so we got Hector Lombard versus Falanico Vitali right now for the middleweight title. Can you reveal anything else that's coming up, or any other fighters you've been talking to come on that card?
Boy, we've talked to a lot of guys. We haven't made announcements. Hector's going to fight Falanico, obviously. And then we'll have one of the finals, either probably the featherweight final on that show, which I would assume it'll be the featherweight final. Depends on potential injuries and suspensions. But yeah, it should be a great show. I mean, we're closing out the season, and it should be an amazing show on the 14th.
You politicked out of that one. I was trying to get him to get some actual answers here, and I guess we're not getting any big reveals tonight, are we?
It's late, brother.
I thought that would work because it is late.
Brain's working super slow. I'm just focusing on English sequentially, word after word after word.
Muy bien, ahora. Okay, so another thing I want to talk about now. Recently this happened, and I want to hear your opinion on this.
Sure.
Zuffa purchased Strikeforce. Big thing, obviously. What's your opinion on this?
Not surprising, given kind of what Strikeforce has been out trying to do in the marketplace, and Zuffa's obvious proven propensity to be willing to go out and buy other organizations. I'm a big fan of competition, and I came into this game having been an agent and representing athletes, and I think the more different places there are to ply your trade, the more great young fighters look at this sport that we all love so much and think, wow, I could do that for a living. So you get guys like Ben Askren and Rick Hawn and Chris Lozano and Joe. You get guys that will come into it and go, you know what, I could make a living doing this. And the more options there are out there for them that have large television deals and prolific distribution, the more young, great kids you're going to get into the game. So for the sport as a whole, I don't necessarily think it's maybe a great thing, because the less hugely talented world-class athletes, whether they be from jiu-jitsu or whether they be from wrestling or whether they be from judo or whether they be from whatever sport, that are willing to look at this and come into it, the less strong our sport is as a whole. But, you know, I mean, business is business, and Strikeforce was looking for an acquisition or looking to be acquired, and Zuffa was looking to acquire, and, you know, there's Zuffa and us.
Of course, you pretty much have now catapulted up into a little bit more of a higher spot. And you know, first at this point, it's kind of like everyone's essentially working together, because you have the deal with Viacom also. I know you've moved your shows earlier for them to work with them as well. It's probably going to be coming up another weekend from now, or UFC 129. You're going to probably be moving down your time as well. So it seems like everyone's kind of more or less piggybacking off the UFC, it seems like, these days.
You know, we're in a magical situation. We've formed an alliance.
I like that, magical situation.
Thank you. Magical. MTV Networks own Spike. So all of the counter-programming tools that have been in place in mixed martial arts over the last couple of years, where one group that had a TV show would program at a certain time, and then Zuffa could counter-program them, and then another group could try to counter-program Zuffa, doesn't exist now, because really we're under the same corporate umbrella. So if Zuffa has a show on Spike, the parties that be at MTV Networks get together and say, hey, can you move your show down, so that the Viacom family gets the benefit of having an MTV2 show and have a lot of people watch that, and then transition over to a Spike show and have a lot of people watch that. So it's worked well. It's worked well, you know, it works well for us, and obviously it works well for the corporate entity as well. So it's a win-win.
All right, now last question here. I want to ask about something else, something we haven't quite seen yet. Bellator DVDs. Any chance it's going to happen?
Interesting, you should ask. There's a group that we are working with who has been doing a lot of due diligence in terms of what those DVDs would look like and how we would go about distributing them, and what the most effective means by which we could do them would be. So it is in the works. It's not anything that's close to happening, but it's definitely in the works, and people are talking about it and thinking through it. I'm of the same mindset with DVDs as you and I have talked about in the past in terms of pay-per-view. I don't think those are things you can ever force feed on fans, because I always try to kind of take this jacket off and the hat off, and I say, would I go out and buy DVDs right now, or would I purchase a pay-per-view? Is there enough meat on those bones? You know, we're going to be here for the next decade. So those things, right now we're in a great spot. We're cash flow break even. Everything we do brings in enough money to continue to move us forward. So we're not forced to do anything in the hopes that it will bring in more revenue to keep the company afloat. We're in a great spot. So it'll come, but I don't know how quickly.
All right, well, sounds good. So, Bjorn, we'll see you, I guess, in a few weeks in New Jersey. Thanks for your time tonight. Good show, as always, and look forward to seeing you again.
You'll be at Caesars?
I should be at Caesars. I better talk to your credentialing people. I better be at Caesars.
Good. I'd like to have you there. It'll be a good show.
All right, well, thank you very much, Bjorn.